Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to create S3 buckets using Python. We will also see how we can give different permissions to bucket while creating them, as well as create these buckets in different regions. Before you can create buckets using Python, you need to set up a IAM user which has S3 access on your machine. I have already created video for that previously, and you can watch that video before this if you haven't set up that because if that user doesn't have any permissions, you won't be able to run this code on your machine. So let's get started. For creating a bucket in Python, you need a Python Boto3 package. I have already installed it on I haven't installed it on my project that I have just started. So let me just install that. The command for that is pip install Boto3, and this should install a Boto3 package on your machine. So I guess it was installed in my project. So it didn't do anything. If you haven't installed it, it will take some time. But anyways, once we have that, we can just start with import Boto3. And then we have to create an S3 client which can create a bucket which we can use to create buckets in S3. So the syntax for the command for that is boto3 dot client, and this is pretty much common. If you are used to working with Python and Boto3, you should find it very familiar. I'm sorry about missing that. Anyways, yeah, so now it's fine. The next thing that we want to do is just run the create bucket command on this S3 client. So maybe let's make it a little bit specific so we will be able to identify it easily. And then say let's cache the response here, and then say S3 client dot create bucket, and then you need to pass few options or few parameters to this function, and only required parameter is the bucket name, and that you do just by bucket and equal to, and in here you have to give your bucket some unique name, and this has to be unique across all AWS regions or all AWS accounts. So let's say what I can say is I would say binary guy test bucket and maybe number, just to make it a random. So I guess yeah, this should be enough, and we don't need a colon. And let's see, then print this and see our response. So now I can run this, and just that's all you need to create bucket in S3. So once I run this code, we should see our bucket in AWS console. So let's first run it and see what's the output here. Okay, the bucket is invalid because underscores are not acceptable here. We have to give only hyphens. So that was the issue. I guess that's good to know that you have a specified policy to give a policy for bucket names, and you have to follow that. If you didn't follow it, you will see such kind of error which will say that the specified bucket is not a valid one. Now I'm running it again, and now we can see that it has given a proper response, and our bucket should be created with this location binary guide test bucket 123. So let's go on the UI and check if that has created successfully or not. So let me refresh it, and here you can see that our bucket has been created, and this has been created in US East 1 region. And by default, any bucket created in AWS will have private private access, so nobody will be able to write or read from that bucket. So let's say you have some use case where you have to create a bucket which have public read policy, so we can also create that, and also you may have reason to create bucket in different AWS regions. So let's say you want to create in EU East 1 in the Europe region. So we can also specify different parameters to this create bucket function, which can accept those parameters, and it will create bucket in the different region. For that, the syntax is pretty simple again. So let's start with the response, then S3 client, and again it will be the create bucket command. This time let's say bucket name 1234 instead of just 4. Apart from that, let's say you have to specify one ACL. ACLs are the way that you can let AWS know what kind of access this bucket should have, and the supported ACL types are private, which is default, and that means no one will be able to read or write. The next one is the public read. Public read means only you will be able to write it, but people will be able to read from it. Then the public read write, that means everybody can read and write from that bucket. And the last one is the authenticated read. That means the only authenticated users. So if you are using Cognito pool, then only the authenticated users will be able to read it. It won't have a public read access. So let's say for this example we want to create a public read bucket, and this is the syntax for it. In the code I will update all the possible options for this ACL, so when you are referring it will be easier for you to find all the options. And the last parameter that we want to pass is the current configuration, current bucket configuration, or that is I guess create bucket configuration, sorry, my bad. So this parameter is an object, and here we can pass the location of the where we want to create that bucket. So in this case, let's say we want to create in let's say this is not JavaScript, so we have to enclose that in a double quotation, and then we will be creating this in EU East 1, let's say, and that's it. So after that, if you check if you create this bucket will have the public read ACL attached to it. So any object you put into that bucket will be accessible to everyone will be able to read from that bucket, and this bucket is going to be created in EU East 1 region. So let's see if it works. So now let me comment out this code, because we have already created this bucket, and we can just run our previous command. Okay, so this is saying that this region is not available. Let me see what we can give. Maybe we can try this one and see if it works perfectly. Yeah, now you see that this bucket has been created, and if we check on the console, yeah, you can see that bucket 1234 has been created, and it has public read policy. That's why it is showing it as a red mark, just to let you know that any object you keep in this bucket will be public one. And if you see the region, it is AP South 1, so all the constraints that we have passed from this function have been applied to our bucket, and that's pretty much it. That's how easy it is to create bucket in S3 using Python. So I hope you have found this useful. If you have any questions about it, please ask me in the comment section. I will try to answer each and every question. And in this series of videos, I am trying to cover all Python scripting for S3. So if you are interested in such videos, please subscribe to channel. See you in the next one. Thank you.